Hello everyone, my name is Al and I am a geologist and a biologist. I refer to myself primarily as a geologist because my master's degree is in geoscience and as an undergraduate my primary major was geology. However, as an undergraduate I double majored in geology and biology, and the research that I did for my master's thesis was in the specific field of geoscience called geobiology, which is the intersection of the fields of geology and biology. So, in addition to having a very good geology background, I have a rather extensive biology background. I've been wanting to sort of tap into my biology background a bit more extensively though for one of these videos. So today we are going to be watching the episode Land Before Swine, which is the 18th episode of the first season of Gravity Falls. This episode will have plenty of opportunities for me to talk about things both as a geologist and as a biologist. Gravity Falls is actually my second favorite TV show of all time. My first favorite, if you're curious, is Smallville because I'm a dork. So I have seen all of the episodes multiple times. So like with the Steven Universe reaction videos, this will not be a blind reaction. But, I mean, Gravity Falls is great. I had to react to the Pterodactyl Bros episode. I still have yet to access a salon and get my hair cut, so my hair is still a disaster zone. But without further ado, let's get started watching Land Before Swine.
Focus, Deputy. Remember your training. Easy, easy. You're almost there.
Dang it, I almost got the treasure.
The time we spend together is treasure enough. Hey, you feel that?
Reckon we should report that.
Or go for a ride in our new convertible.
Anyway, I need you to look after this little gentleman while I'm gone.
Not now, kid. I got some tourists coming through.
Uncle Stan, I know you're not crazy about waddles.
He's a fat, naked jerk.
But you do care about me. Promise me you won't let him outside.
Fine. Yeah. I promise.
Thanks, Uncle Stan!
I'm watching you, pig.
Come on. That's a wing. If camera B got the wing, then the one that should have got the rest is camera C. The creature. Towards victory, Nachos.
No! Just 10 minutes without this pig in the house. Is that so much to ask? There. Mabel asks. This never happened. Oh, but Grunkle Stan, it's not safe out there. There's predators. Oh, brother.
I can't believe you, man.
Sorry, dude, I was just so excited. Nachos cause excitement.
Seuss, no offense, but you've got to be more careful sometimes. I mean, what are the odds we'll ever get another picture of the...
Dude, did you see that? That thing was a dinosaur, bro.
How is it possible a dinosaur survived 65 million years?
The first thing I'm going to address here is Seuss's claim that they just saw a dinosaur. They did not. They saw a pterosaur. It's a very common misconception, but pterosaurs are not actually dinosaurs. Dinosaurs have a very specific definition of being composed of two specific groups Ornithischia and Saurischia. If an organism is not an ornithischian or a saurischian, then it is not considered to be a dinosaur. Pterosaurs are their own group, Pterosauria, and as such, they are not dinosaurs. The second thing that I'm going to address is the time frame that Dipper provided, which was 65 million years. Obviously, Dipper was referring to the time that has passed since the KT extinction event, aka the extinction event in which non-avian dinosaurs went extinct. That extinction event didn't actually happen 65 million years ago, it happened 66 million years ago. I am going to give Dipper some leeway here though, not because he's 12, but because in geology we toss around millions of years like they're nothing. Geologists study the entire history of the Earth, and the Earth is 4.6 billion years old. So we don't really think of time in the same way that someone you might grab off the street would. We think of thousands of years as being a blink of the eye because we work with such a huge time frame and we study such huge chunks of time. It only makes sense to refer to it in terms of millions or even billions of years. And because geologists toss out millions of years like it's candy at a parade, and the fact that there is a lot of sort of estimation when it comes to the exact dates of things, that's why I'm giving Dipper some leeway here. I want to reiterate, I'm not giving him leeway because he's 12. I'm giving him leeway because it just makes sense to me. There's one last thing that I'm going to address before I move on to the rest of the episode, and that is Dipper's comment about a dinosaur living for 65 million years. I can't comment on the ability of an individual organism to survive for 65 or 66 million years, but I can talk about an organism that is living today that is virtually indistinguishable from how it looked 65, 66, or even 100, 300 million years ago. In biology and geology, we have a term called living fossil. It's not the most strictly scientific of terms. It's mostly used for the titles of articles, but it does have a specific definition, so it's decently sciencey, and I'm going to explain what it is. In order for an organism to be considered a living fossil, it has to meet two qualifications. The first qualification is that it needs to be the only living or extant member of its clade. Clade is a term used in biology to refer to a group of closely related organisms. There is a bit more nuance to the definition of clade, and I simplified it greatly, but that's all that you really need to know about for this video, is that in biology we use the term clade to refer to a group of closely related organisms. A good example of an organism that is the only surviving member of its clade would be the ginkgo or maidenhair tree, Ginkgo biloba. Ginkgo biloba is not the only surviving member of its genus, family, order, and class. It is also the only surviving member of the division Ginkgophyta. So there were a lot of ginkgos in the past, but now there's just one. The second qualification that an organism needs to meet in order to be considered a living fossil is that its current form needs to be very similar to the versions that we see in the fossil record. A good example of this would be the coelacanth. Now, I would love to get into the story of the coelacanth, but I don't have time for that right now, so I highly encourage you to look it up yourself. It is very fascinating. Modern-day coelacanths are virtually indistinguishable from the fossils that we have of their ancestors, dating all the way back to the Devonian, approximately 400 million years ago. This doesn't mean that coelacanths haven't evolved in 400 million years. A common misconception about living fossils is that because they are very similar in appearance now and millions of years ago, they haven't evolved. That's not the case. They have evolved, just not as drastically as other organisms might have in that same time frame. Coelacanths are perfectly suited for their environment and ecosystem now, and they were millions of years ago. Because their environment didn't change drastically, they didn't really have a need to evolve drastically to adapt to a changing environment. So the coelacanth has evolved, just not as drastically as, say, amphibians evolved into reptiles and then reptiles evolved into mammals, all of which happened during the entire time frame that coelacanths have been around.
All right. That pterodactyl won't know what hit him.
It's pterodactyl, man.
Actually, nobody knows how to pronounce it because no one was alive back in dinosaur days, so, whoa! Almost ran over my own head there.
What Seuss is saying here about us not knowing how to pronounce the word pterodactyl makes it sound like he thinks that pterodactyls and pterosaurs in general had this sort of grand written history that we stumbled across and were able to decode, but because they are all extinct now, we don't know how to pronounce any of the words despite decoding them. This is nonsense, of course, because, as we all know, pterodactyls didn't have a written history, they had an oral history. In all seriousness, though, this is clearly meant to be a joke, but let me still address it. Yes, the P is silent. We are the ones who gave extinct organisms their names, so of course we know how to pronounce those names. And a lot of times, those names have an interesting fact about the creature hidden within it, and the pterodactyl is a very good example of this. A lot of scientific names are derived from Latin or ancient Greek, and the term pterodactyl is derived from ancient Greek. Ptero means wing and dactyl means finger, so essentially pterodactyl means wing finger. The pterodactyl actually has this name because of the unique structure of its wings. So birds have sort of just like one long arm, and there's sort of like, flesh around it and feathers, and then they don't really have individual digits. Bats have sort of elongated hands, and then the webbing of their wings is stretched between their fingers. I once saw a post on the internet referred to bats flying through the power of jazz hands, which, fair enough. Pterodactyls and other pterosaurs, however, have a different wing construction. Instead of it just being around their arm like a bird, or having webbing stretched between their digits like a bat, they have most of their hand just sort of sitting up, and then they have an elongated pinky finger that stretches out, and the webbing of the wing is attached at the end of the pinky finger and then back at their shoulder. So their name means wing finger because their wing is directly attached to their finger. I'm also going to take this opportunity to bring something up. I was waiting for the perfect moment to do that, and since I'm talking about pterosaurs and pterodactyls now, I might as well. Pterosaur and pterodactyl are not synonyms. This is a very, very common misconception, and I think it's a misconception that is helped by the media, but pterodactyl is a term reserved for one specific kind of pterosaur. Pterosaur is the entire group of winged reptiles that evolved during the Mesozoic era and went extinct along with the non-avian dinosaurs during the KT extinction event. Within the group Pterosauria, there is one specific genus called Pterodactylus, and pterodactyls are organisms that belong to the genus Pterodactylus. Pterodactyl is not a synonym for pterosaur any more than square is a synonym for rectangle. You've heard this probably, all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. All pterodactyls are pterosaurs, but not all pterosaurs are pterodactyls. The pterosaur we see in this episode is not a pterodactyl. It's way too big. Pterodactyls actually weren't that big. It's the other genera of pterosaurs that were huge. Pterosaurs like Quetzalcoatlus. This doesn't appear to be a Quetzalcoatlus in this episode. If I had to hazard a guess as to what genus it is, I would say that the pterosaur in this episode is likely a pteranodon. Take that with a grain of salt, however, because I'm not an expert in pterosaurs, I'm not even a paleontologist, and also this is a cartoon, so the level of detail might not be good enough for someone who actually specializes in pterosaurs to properly identify it. But regardless of whether it is a pteranodon or something else, there's no way that it's a pterodactylus, so it's not a pterodactyl or a pterodactyl. Editing Al here. I was double checking some of my facts on pterosaurs as I was editing, just to make sure that I didn't say anything wrong, because pterosaurs aren't exactly my area of expertise. And as I was double checking, I discovered that pterodactyl is a term that isn't just used to refer to members of the genus Pterodactylus, but can also be used to refer to members of the suborder Pterodactyloidea. Pterodactyloidea includes genera such as Pterodactylus, Pteranodon, and Quetzalcoatlus. The pterosaur seen in this episode does look to me like a Pteranodon, and if it is in fact a Pteranodon, then Seuss could be right, and so could Dipper and everyone else in describing it as a pterodactyl. However, I stand by my decision that overall they were incorrect in describing it as a pterodactyl, because they were clearly using it in the way that a lot of the media does, which is as a catch-all term for pterosaurs in general, which is very incorrect to do so.
Seuss, look, I gotta tell you something.
Okay, but before you do, check out these matching shirts I made for us. Who's this guy right here? You, totally you, dude. And these rays indicate friendship. So what was it you were gonna tell me again?
Pterodactyl, here we come!
Yes! Rose before dinos!
Need someone to tag along and tell weird personal stories? No thanks. So there I am, fighting a raccoon for the same piece of meat when our mouths get close, and we kiss accidentally. You can't take a hint, can you? Nope.
Whoa.
Sweet roses.
Fancy marmalade.
These plants look all Jurassic-y.
That's it. That is the line that made me want to react to this episode in particular. The line where Dipper says, "These plants look all Jurassic-y." That line drives me up the wall. And no, I'm not going to give Dipper any leeway this time. I gave him leeway for saying 65 million years, but I'm not giving him leeway this time because he's completely wrong, and I don't care that he's 12. He's still wrong. So the thing that annoys me about this line is the fact that Dipper says these plants look all Jurassic-y while he's looking at a flowering plant, aka an angiosperm. And angiosperms didn't evolve until the Cretaceous. So I have used a few terms throughout this video, terms like Devonian, Mesozoic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. And these are terms that geologists use when we categorize the Earth's history. Because geologists study the entirety of the Earth's history, it's necessary to break it into different chunks of time. And we do so using the geologic timescale. The geologic timescale is a little bit intimidating the first time you see it, but if you go into geology, you do have to memorize it, and I promise, it's not as terrible to memorize as it first seems. In the geologic timescale, the Earth's history is divided into eons, eras, periods, and epochs. Eons are the largest, eras are the second largest, periods are the second smallest, and epochs are the smallest chunks of time. The Mesozoic is the specific era that contained the three geologic periods, the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. The Mesozoic is often referred to as the age of reptiles or age of dinosaurs because those three periods were the times that dinosaurs first evolved and grew to dominance, and the Mesozoic era ends with the KT extinction event, aka the extinction of all non-avian dinosaurs, in addition to other groups such as pterosaurs and ammonites. The Devonian is a geologic period that happened much, much earlier. I mentioned it when I was talking about coelacanths. It is often referred to as the age of fishes because that is the time period in which fish really diversified and became very dominant. But I'm not going to focus too much on the Devonian. I'm going to talk about the three periods within the Mesozoic era, and actually I'm going to focus more upon the Jurassic and Cretaceous. Not much happened in the Triassic. The Triassic actually is bookended by mass extinction events. Right before the Triassic was the largest extinction event in the Earth's history, and then the Triassic ended with another extinction event, so there wasn't a lot going on Earth, and the fossil record is kind of bare. Dinosaurs really came to dominance during the Jurassic and Cretaceous. The Jurassic stretched from approximately 200 million years ago to 145 million years ago, while the Cretaceous was from approximately 145 million years ago to 66 million years ago. During the Jurassic, we saw the diversification of dinosaurs, and they quickly became the dominant organisms. However, a lot of the dinosaurs that you know and love, such as the T-Rex and Velociraptor, weren't around until the Cretaceous. Angiosperms, aka flowering plants, evolved during the Cretaceous and quickly became dominant over the then currently dominant group of plants, gymnosperms. Gymnosperms do have a number of living representatives, but they are much less diverse than they used to be. Gymnosperms include things like conifers, the ginkgo tree, cycads, and I think nadophytes? Yes, nadophytes. I was right. Angiosperms, like I said before, are flowering plants. They are plants that use flowers to reproduce. They include things like grasses, most deciduous trees, vegetables. Angiosperms obtained such great dominance since they first evolved during the Cretaceous that if you were to step outside right now, at least 90%, if not more, of the plants you would see would be angiosperms, as is the plant that Dipper is observing in this episode. That is clearly a flowering plant, so it cannot look Jurassic-y, Dipper. It looks Cretaceous-y at best. I know what he's saying. I know he's saying, this plant looks like it's from dinosaur times, and the only frame of reference that he has for dinosaur times is the Jurassic, probably because of things like Jurassic Park. But he's still wrong. He's still wrong. I don't care that he's 12.
Wow! They're all trapped inside tree sap. That's how they survived for 65 million years. Whoa. The summer heat must be melting them loose.
Obviously, they're doing a sort of Jurassic Park parody here. I'm not going to go into what all was wrong with Jurassic Park, because I'm talking about Gravity Falls right now, but I'm also not planning on ever doing any sort of reaction to Jurassic Park, because I've seen it once, and it honestly scared me. I cannot watch horror or suspense movies because I'm too easily spooked, so I don't plan on ever watching Jurassic Park again for fun, let alone for a video reaction. There are geologists and biologists out there who are much better than me, who can explain the things wrong with Jurassic Park in a much more eloquent way than I can. I'm going to see if I can find some good sort of dissections of what is wrong with Jurassic Park and put them in the video description. So I would look for those if you want to find out what all is wrong with Jurassic Park. But I'm not going to talk about it right now, and I'm not going to talk about it ever. So I'm just getting that out of the way right now.
What's that?
Stan?
He's punching him in the face!
From X hard I stab at thee!
Oh, yes! Oh, Mr. Barnes, you're okay!
Here's your pig, kiddo. We're trapped!
Quick! The geyser can shoot us back up!
No, do not go anywhere near a geyser. Do not get inside of a geyser. That is so dangerous. Geysers are literally boiling water. Literally. They are boiling water. If you go in one, you can very well die. If you've been to Yellowstone, you've seen the geysers that erupt there, and you may have even been there, like, when it erupts and then, like, a bunch of the water sort of, like, falls down on you. The water is not that temperature inside of the geyser. The water is boiling inside of the geyser. Once it leaves the geyser, it cools down, and by the time that it might reach you on the ground, then it's not going to boil you. But if you get inside of a geyser, you're getting scalded. Do not get inside of a geyser. Do not follow cartoon rules whatsoever.
Come on, go, go!
Bros before dinos!
So the actual mechanism that controls when and how a geyser erupts is something I'm not going to get into right now, but I'm like 99% sure that just punching a geyser won't make it erupt. These were two bad ideas in a row. Punching a geyser won't make it erupt, and do not get in a geyser unless you want to be scalded. Just, if you are in a location with geysers, follow the safety instructions that you are provided by the authorities. Like, do not try to get in any of the geysers at Yellowstone. You will get horribly injured and or arrested. Don't do it.
I can't believe you did all that for Waddles.
Ah, well, I can't have my favorite niece not talking to me. And if I gotta leap onto a pterodactyl and punch him in the face, then that's what I gotta do.
That's kind of sappy.
What? That's how I feel.
No, I mean...
Oh, yeah. Gotcha! Uh-oh.
Check it out. That thing destroyed my vest.
Zeus, look! A real dinosaur tooth? That's awesome!
Not as awesome as you saving us back there. Pterodactyl bros?
Pterodactyl bros. Boosh! Hey, I pronounced it right that time.
Think we need to worry about the rest of those dinosaurs?
I doubt it. I ate my way through a dinosaur!
That was Season 1, Episode 18 of Gravity Falls, Land Before Swine. I love this show so much, and even though this episode isn't scientifically accurate whatsoever, it has Stan punching a pterosaur in the face with a pig strapped to his chest. And honestly, you can't get much better than that. Nico agrees. That's why she crawled into the shot right now. So I actually do have a couple more reactions planned. I have another episode of Gravity Falls that I'm going to watch and react to, and then I have another episode of Steven Universe that I'm going to watch and react to. I also got a recommendation by a couple of people to watch an anime called Land of the Lustrous. That will be a blind reaction, and I will make that at some point, but probably after I make the Steven Universe and Gravity Falls reactions that I have planned. So even though I do have a few more reactions planned, if there is something that you would like to recommend that I react to, either as a geologist or a biologist, leave a comment down below and let me know what it is. Also, I have been considering doing a series that is just me explaining some of the basic concepts in geology, like the definition of a mineral, the different groups of rocks, things like that. Let me know if you would like to see that, and I can maybe get to work on that. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and a comment down below, and subscribe if you would like to see more content like this. And I hope that you have a nice day.